As we walk through these next few weeks, we're going to be looking at each decade of Church by the Sea's history. If you don't know, we're celebrating 80 years here at Church by the Sea, and we're going to be continuing that celebration in and through everything we do here at church through Easter. So it's going to be an exciting time. Last week we talked about the 40s and what God taught us through the 40s and our history there. Today we're going to be talking about the 50s and all that we can learn from our history in that time. The life of Church by the Sea and the community of Madeira Beach at large, which was about 1 square mile in area at the time, was flourishing in the 1950s. The city of Madeira Beach was now from Johns Pass to 150th Avenue, along with properties on the east side of the Welch Causeway. Publix is being built, which is very important to us because we buy a lot of pub subs for our events and things like that, so there's a legacy there involved. But the Publix is being built, and then there's the elementary school. Dredging is taking place, creating finger islands and bringing more residents to the beaches. The church now owns 15 lots and has become a place for many events. Concerts were being held, along with community holiday celebrations. Many people were home from serving overseas in the war, and the economy was beginning to bounce back and become more stable. Attendance at the church was increasing. The founders of the church, Reverend Philip Ralph, were pleased to involve the community to become a place for all people to meet and feel comfortable to worship together. When the church celebrated its 10th anniversary, Reverend Ralph wrote a play called Spreading the Light, which was performed many times after that. And the play depicted the historical events of the church, but it also spoke to the theme that our purpose as a church is to spread the light of Christ. During the 15th anniversary, actually, Reverend Ralph sent a statement because he was unwell. He couldn't be at the 15th anniversary. And this is what he said. He said, "We have come a long way. We are now entering a new era. My prayer is that we shall not fail to see the task that is before us, and we shall all work together with devotion and harmony as God shows us the way." There are now 2 services to accommodate the growing congregation. A choir director and organist was hired for the growing choir, as there are now 3 choirs, including a junior choir made up of 30 kids of all ages. 6 stained glass windows were purchased to enhance the sanctuary for $400 each. Again, a good deal. They were placed with important significance. The fisherman window, which is up in the balcony, is of great importance, obviously, to our community. However, the John Knox and Martin Luther windows, the minister would have preferred for them to be set farther apart because he thinks they wouldn't have liked each other. So I guess the joke's on them because they're together over there. A heat pump for the heating and cooling of the buildings was developed in Florida, and it was the talk of the beaches when it came to our church. In fact, we were one of the first places to get it. It was installed in the sanctuary, and many more church events then followed. People were eager to use our facilities as we had the heating and the cooling to offer. Church dinners and weddings, costume parties for the kids of the community. So many events were held in this church, which, by the way, and you may have seen from some of the pictures, there weren't pews in here to accommodate events. They had chairs that they could then rearrange in the form of for worship, but they could also rearrange them around tables and do different kinds of things in here. But it was becoming even too much for this building, and that's when they began to think about building the education building. So they started plans on that, and they put together a little sketch, and they wanted to make sure, hey, we have AC in the one building, we have to have AC in the other building, because it's like that's what attracts people. To keep to a frugal budget, though, you could only have 25 people in a Sunday school at a time, so the AC didn't run too hard. So that was an interesting little money-saving hack there. The kitchen and Sunday school classes were also in the plans, and it was exciting for everyone to know that the community and the church members were supportive of the building because they gave financially. Because there was more room, summer camps for the kids in the community were held at the church so families would not have to travel inland. And in 1955, Reverend Fred Campbell from Connecticut would accept the call to pastor Church by the Sea up until 1959. Reverend Ralph, the founding pastor, died in August of 1959, just before his 87th birthday. 2 things stuck out to me about the 70s. There's that theme of spreading the light, as we are all called to do as Christians, and that call is still true 80 years later. We need to be a church that spreads the light of Christ. But the other thing that struck me was Reverend Ralph's statement. He said, keep the faith, keep going, persevere, because there's a lot more work to do. And in that statement, I really felt like Reverend Ralph knew that the best was yet to come for Church by the Sea. This is what Galatians 6:9 says. It says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. It's that idea of keep going. For the founders in those early days, they had the faith to believe that the best was yet to come. And so we can continue in their footsteps today as we walk through the next decades of Church by the Sea, to spread the light and to not become weary in doing good. That's what I learned from the 50s. And so there's a little bit of church history. Look for more next week as well.